folks, and welcome to Paddock Pass, your pre-race edition for the 2019 Japanese Grand Prix. Welcome to Suzuka and the Paddock, and welcome down here to the Mercedes motorhome. And we start with Mercedes, not only because they won last time out in Russia, much to everyone's surprise, including theirs, oddly enough, because since the summer break, as everybody will know by now, it is Ferrari that has been in the ascendancy. It is Ferrari that have been the team to beat, and they could have made it 4 race wins out of 4, as they had made it 4 pole positions out of 4, but only internal team wranglings, an engine going pop, and the subsequent virtual safety car played things into Mercedes' hands. It was a shock win for them, but it means that both Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton can wrap up a 6th Formula One World Championship this weekend, I believe, if everything falls in place for Lewis. I mean, it'll take a real sort of mathematical plonking of things in the right place for Lewis to win a title, but Mercedes, it's not going to be that difficult for them to actually wrap up not just a 6th title, a 6th consecutive World Championship, which hasn't been done. Well, it's only been done once, and that was by Ferrari back in the 2000s. Would be something astonishing if Mercedes could do that. Let's talk, though, to Mercedes. Should we talk to Lewis, as he won the last race, about coming into this weekend, their expectations, and I think their knowledge that really, for the first time this season, they're not the favourites anymore.
We want them to be at their best so that we can challenge them at their best, and ultimately then if we beat them at their best, then it just makes it feel better. But no, I was smiling because it's interesting people's interpretation of what is and what is not happening there. I mean, I'm not watching it close enough to see. I think there's been a lot of noise made of the last race, but I saw Seb after the race and he looked like he was in a harmonious position. But from the outside, it looks a certain way. But I think they're a formidable force. They're doing an incredible job at the moment, and they're going to be very hard to beat in these, particularly the remainder of these races. And they've obviously clicked with this package. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves into next year's car, because again, it's an evolution of this year's car. So I think hopefully we're going to have an even closer season next year. And but yeah, this next, I don't know, was it 5 races, 6 races left, whatever. It's going to be interesting to see how that relationship evolves.
So from Mercedes to the team who are now considered to be the favourites, apparently, for the rest of the year, Ferrari. The upgrade that they brought to their car at the front that's really sorted it out, really helped it, was a 2020 development that the team brought forward to put on the car and has dialed out a lot of the sort of front-end issues that they had. Great. Let's talk, though. We're going to talk to both Chuck Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel, I think. We spoke to Charles in the pen. Seb did his little press conference thing this afternoon. Because when we left Russia, all was not well. And it's been brewing all season, really. But then, along came Monza, and Charles played silly buggers in qualifying, and then he won the race, and it was amazing. And after Seb had thrown the car away, and Matthias sort of said, all is forgiven. That little needle is kind of rising, and then Charles is on top step of the podium, and Seb's kind of got to watch it. And hello, sir. How are you? He has got a job on his hands, though, because he's got 2 number 1 drivers, something that Mercedes said, Toto said, it's a headache. It's a nice headache, but it's a headache if they are both vying for that P1 place. Seb wins in Singapore, had the team manipulated the strategy to get him ahead of Charles. Charles was unhappy. Then they had that agreement in Russia that Seb seemingly didn't want to stick to. Had it been properly explained? Hadn't it been properly explained? All of these little things sticks on a fire, and it just takes a spark and the whole thing goes up. And has Mattia got it in him to just quell that fire, keep it warm enough to, keep the motor running and keep the whole thing pushing forward, but not explode? I don't know, my similes are all over the place. We're going to talk to them both, though. They had a chat. Seb went into the factory. Charles went in the day after to do some work, to also talk about Russia, to debrief from that. Are we going to get any more games for the rest of the season?
It was not completely clear to both of the drivers, so we need to make sure the situation is completely clear in the future. But yeah, in Russia, I'm happy of what I've done, and it's like this. We discussed it. Now it's done. I think it was a much bigger deal from the outside than it actually was on the inside. But it's life. Sometimes it happens like this, and it will be fine now.
Have you spoken to Seb since?
Yes, we did this morning. Actually, we didn't have the chance to meet at the factory because I could not be there the day he was at the factory. So, but yeah, everything is fine.
I think we spoke about it obviously, and more than once. So I think overall, I mean, we speak with each other. Maybe different to what some people think, but yeah, I think it's pretty clear. And obviously now it's 2 weeks ago, so we look forward.
I'm not entirely sure what Alex Albon is filling his sushi roll with, and I can't fully decide whether it looks delicious or awful. Let's just say for a sushi chef, he's a great driver. They always have fun, little things going on the media days here. It's nice to see Alex chucking himself in with both feet, as he has done. Segue to his drive with the team. We'll talk to him actually. We spoke to Max earlier today. He's looking forward to this race. It's a great one. It's a track that he loves. And obviously, big one for Honda this weekend, huge one for Honda. We're going to talk to Alex though. He's had 4 races with the team now, but none of them have been easy. He's had penalties, he's had to fight his way through at every single race. This weekend, just hoping for something a little bit simpler. Your first 4 races with Red Bull have been a baptism of fire, haven't they? It's not been easy.
It hasn't. I feel like I've had one normal qualifying, which was Singapore, and then all the others have been compromised either from myself or penalties, or just not doing a lap, I think, in Monza. So I would like a more boring race, to be honest. I mean, it's good for YouTube, but it doesn't feel good to be coming through the field too much. But yeah, it's been good. I think just to bounce back on tough Saturdays or for whatever reason, I'm happy with it. But yeah, I'd like to be qualifying better and having smoother races.
Talk about fun things that everybody does on the Thursdays here in Japan. Renault having a bit of a rugby day. Nico Hülkenberg, I think if he doesn't manage to get a seat in Formula 1 next year, won't be looking for a career, or maybe might be looking for a career in rugby. Daniel Ricciardo showing him how it was done earlier. Because of course the Rugby World Cup is on in Japan at the moment. A couple of games though already been cancelled for the weekend. We'll talk about that in a little bit because there is, I was going to say, some weather rolling in. It's a bit more than weather. It's a typhoon, and a pretty big one. Anyway, bit of rugby going on. We spoke to Daniel Ricciardo earlier. He's looking forward to a good weekend. We're going to speak to Nico Hülkenberg though, because frankly I don't know how many more opportunities we're going to get after the end of this season, and it seems like neither does he. Is there anything in the back of your mind of, oh man, this might be the last time I get to drive an F1 car at Suzuka?
Not really. Not specifically each event. It could be, but it's not important. Doesn't play a role. You know, if anything, I'm enjoying it maybe more. Just giving it all, and that's it for now.
How are negotiations, conversations going? Not just here, but everywhere. I imagine Nico Hülkenberg is somebody who would be much in demand, not just in this paddock.
I tell you, my phone bill has been racking up the last month. I can spend all my money on phone bills now.
What? Well, that means you're phoning people.
Well, both ways. It also costs money when you receive calls.
Actually,
sometimes.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, particularly if they're coming from abroad.
Exactly.
You got anything to tell us?
No, not yet.
Oh, I wish you did.
Yeah, but not yet. But it shouldn't be much longer.
So from Renault to McLaren, the two teams tied in that battle for 4th in the Constructors' Championship. Spoke to Lando earlier today. He's looking forward to this weekend. I think all the young guys who've not raced here are really, really excited about it. It's just one of those epic circuits. And a circuit that Carlos loves. We're going to hear from him. A guy who's really grown into his team leader role. A guy who's really looking towards the future with this team. Of course, it was announced in Russia that McLaren would return to being McLaren Mercedes in 2021. Something that everyone's excited about, not least Lando, not least Carlos, but will they be there to reap the rewards of the fruits of the renewed partnership when McLaren Mercedes becomes a thing once again? Obviously at the last race, McLaren announced they'd be moving to Mercedes power in 2021. I know that's a long way away, but do you see you still being around with McLaren in 2021 to sort of reap the fruits of that?
Yeah, I mean 2021 is quite far away. I know I'll have a contract for 2020 and I'm going to be here next year, 21. Who knows, but I cannot see why not at the moment.
Back to one of the world's great circuits.
Yeah, back here, you know, when I think Formula One has one of the best moments in history, you know, in many years. Many titles have been decided here, but also, you know, many great moments. And I think you ask any Formula One driver, and we would say this is up there in our list.
Like one of the best?
Like one of the best, yeah, definitely.
How much do you love it?
I love the whole thing, you know, not only the track, which has a great flow, but also the fans, the atmosphere here. It makes you feel special. It makes you feel like you really belong to Formula One, and Formula One really belongs to Japan, and etc. And also, it's a very special. I don't know. It's difficult to explain it. I actually have one friend here with me that I keep telling my friends to come to Japan, you know, to see a Grand Prix, and he's decided to join me this year to live the experience.
And so to Haas, who, again, it could have been a much better weekend in Russia than it was. Kev arriving here is still upset with the stewards over their decision to penalise him. I don't think he can be that upset. I think it's something like 9 similar penalties that were handed down, so he can't be that annoyed. Anyway, didn't want to talk too much about what spec car. He's sick of it, sick of talking about it. You're probably sick about hearing about it. But they're going to run the hybrid spec of the car this weekend, the old bits and the new bits all together. I'm going to speak to Romain Grosjean about that and how he's feeling, really. You know, we're 3/4 of the way through the season now, 5 races left to go, just less than a quarter of the season left to go. And he's had, I think, a very good year in terms of what it's done for his confidence, his self-belief. After last year, which was very, very upside down and all over the place, he's been very sure of the car, sure of himself. The validation finally in the data, confirming what he'd known all along. So some good stuff from Romain today, I think. And yeah, both drivers looking forward to this weekend with a car which, on the basis of the last couple of events, certainly that hybrid version of it, seemingly starting to iron out the creases that they'd experienced all year.
I think the car should work okay here, so looking forward to go out there tomorrow, try to do the best setup we can, and repeat the quali form from Russia, and hopefully make it to the first lap of the race. And if that's the case, yeah, here it's a good circuit, always had pretty good racing, so looking forward to the weekend. And
so to Racing Point, purveyors, as we said last time out, of fine music. Today, Scatman John. Someone in there really loves their mid-90s pop. Yeah, it's been an odd year for these guys. One of rebuilding, one of getting themselves back up into that upper midfield fight. Upgrade package that came in Singapore has seemingly provided some positivity for them, but is it positivity that will extend through the rest of the season and into 2020? We caught up with Sergio Perez. Great run in Russia. Coming here, are you looking forward to it? Do you think it'll suit the car with the upgrades that have gone on since Singapore?
Yeah, I think we should be strong as well. Obviously, it's a very different circuit to the ones we've been in the past couple of races. So on paper, it's a very different place. But I'm optimistic that we should be in the mix.
Is it one you enjoy?
Yeah, definitely. It's a place that I love. Sector 1 is the best sector in the world. The run of air, as you know, it's a real driver circuit, you know, because when anywhere you go off, there is no margin for mistake. So every corner is very important, and you pay a big price at every corner.
Differing stories for the two sides of the Alfa Romeo garage since the summer break, because while Antonio Giovinazzi has seemingly found his stride, Kimi Räikkönen has gone off the boil. Well, I say he's gone off the boil. They say he's found it harder. Certainly 4 races, which he has described as words I can't repeat. So let's talk to him and ask him to say some words which we can repeat about the problems that he and the team have faced, whether they are insurmountable or whether they are retrievable in the 5 races that remain. It's been a tough 4 races since the summer break. What hasn't quite gone right?
End result. Yeah, simple as that. I think in Spa we had a good speed. Actually, the rest has been it's so with the speed wise, and yeah, I think Spa was the only that we had a good speed, and we could have got very good result, but the rest has been okay. Yeah, you can get 10th or something, but let's say if you're comparing to the races before, for sure we were not as fast as we hoped to. So we try to see what's wrong, and then hopefully tomorrow we get Good Friday and we try to understand a bit more.
Is it operational, or is it that the other teams have maybe made a step forward and you guys haven't gone quite as far forward as they have in the time?
I don't know. I mean, obviously we bought our new package a few races ago, but we expect it to be better off. But we'll have to try to learn about it, and obviously we have some ideas since the last race, but we have to see what we get tomorrow.
Now to a driver who has a history here in Japan and absolutely loves the place, Pierre Gasly, who of course raced here in Super Formula, adores it, fans love him, and he is back with Honda in Formula One. Of course, the second year, he was with Toro Rosso last year, back with Toro Rosso again this year, and really is loving actually being back at this team after the struggles, let's say, of the early part of the year with Red Bull Racing. It's an environment that really has kind of given him a nice big hug. And it's showing. It's showing in his confidence, it's showing in his form. Pierre Gasly absolutely back to some of the best actually that we've seen him in Formula One as he returns to a circuit and a country that he loves.
So it's a big weekend for us. Of course, it's always big honor to come in Japan as a Honda driver. So I would say that the support we get here is just a lot more than any other racetrack, which is kind of really amazing. But then of course we need to make sure we have a strong weekend all for Honda cars. I think it's really important for Honda. They are bringing some also like a little upgrades. So hopefully we're going to be competitive. But it's clearly really important for us.
And for you as well, obviously having spent a year over in Japan, is it nice to come back? Do you feel the connection to the country, to the fans? Yeah, for sure. Super Formula was a big year for me. I spent a lot of time in Japan, actually more time in Japan than in France during that year. And Tokyo feels kind of second home for me. I really like to come here. People are so polite, so respectful. I like the food, I like the culture. So it's just great to be here. But at the end of the day, I just want to have a good race, and that's the only focus. You're starting on the back foot though, missing FP1.
Yeah, missing FP1, so it's never ideal. But then, of course, was planned since a long time that Naoki will do the FP1 here to have a Japanese driver driving on a Japanese track. So that's how it is. Also with the Typhoon, probably on Saturday, probably won't get much running before the weekend, like before the race. But then, that's how it is. We'll have to make the best out of it. Now,
if you were wondering who Pierre was talking about then, or who we were both talking about then actually, as being his replacement in FP1, it is Naoki Yamamoto, the reigning Super Formula champion. Steve, if you come around here, that's Naoki just standing in there. Lovely young guy, very, very talented, and he'll be getting his FP1 run out in place of Pierre on Friday. To Williams next. This will be tough for poor Steve, as apparently, what is it? Your elbow bone has gone on the camera. What was it called? Metabone? The metabone. Cameraman excuses. Apparently the camera's completely boned, metaboned, and that's why I'm having to stay a certain distance from the lens today. Williams, we're going to talk to Robert Kubica. Talked to Georgie Russell earlier about what actually happened to his car, what went wrong in Russia. So here's an interesting thing. They took the wheel off in the pit stop, and there's a spacer behind the wheel. And the spacer normally comes off with the wheel. They put the wheel back on, but the spacer hadn't come off. So there was one spacer, then there was another spacer on the two spacers. So the wheel was a little bit too far away. It was secured, it was safe, but it was just, and so threw left-hander, and the wheel went and crunch. And then they retired old Bobby Kubica, as my learned friend David Hobbs used to call him, which I've only just realised because Steve told me today sounds like you're saying barbecue pizza. Bobby Kubica. It does. Anyway, Robert was pulled out of the race and said to us at the time, I don't know why they pulled me out of the race. They haven't given me a satisfactory answer. A satisfactory answer would have been something's gone wrong on George's car and we don't know what it is, so we've pulled Robert out of the race until we know what went wrong with his car. That's not the excuse they gave, though. They said that shortage of parts. So we talked to Robert today about it. Was that the reason? Is that exactly what happened? Interesting excuse to pull a driver out of a race.
The team decided to preserve the parts for next races. We are in Japan, so for this race, and so practically for limiting the risk of losing another front wing. As a team we lost 2 in Singapore with George and another one in Russia. They decided to stop my car.
Okay. Are you okay with that?
Well, I can be okay, I cannot be okay. That doesn't change anything. So, so.
That's true. That's. I guess that's a good way of looking at it. It doesn't change it one way or the other, does it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit strange way of pulling out the car, and from team perspective point of view, I can understand it. From racer point of view, it's a bit borderline. But in the end, we have to react to the situation we are, and the situation, as you can see, is not the easiest one. But this we know for pretty long. So yeah, I think we were all in all very lucky during the whole year that we didn't have this kind of situation already before. But we had to react to what happened in Singapore and Sochi. They were back-to-back races. So yeah, that's the outcome.
So that is your lot from Paddock Pass. Nearly. Behind me in the FIA motorhome team boss meeting taking place with F1 personnel as well. And you may have seen throughout the paddock, good luck with the framing and the zooming on this, Steve, these things, cones throughout the paddock, underneath them all, those things driven into the ground to hold those things down. When the 150 mile an hour was a figure I saw, but it may have been 120 winds and 20 centimetres of rain within the period, I think it was 12 o'clock till 4 o'clock I saw today, falls with one of the biggest typhoons that Japan has allegedly ever seen hits land Saturday morning, Saturday lunchtime-ish, with the eye of the storm. From most projections that we've seen being in or certainly around the small Japanese port city of Suzuka. It's a biggie. It does look like it's a biggie. The Rugby World Cup, as we've said, have already cancelled a couple of matches. Actually, one of them in Nagoya, which is a 40-minute train ride away from here. So we wait to see. F1 FIA made a statement this morning. Keep an eye on their Twitter feeds for any updates over the weekend. They will come from there. Essentially saying they're monitoring the situation. Their first thought, and the thought that is of a paramount importance, is obviously the safety of the fans, drivers and all personnel at the track. So we wait to see what, if anything, will happen, whether running on Saturday will be shortened, cancelled, whether we'll qualify Sunday morning. Who knows? At the moment, it's all just projection, and until those guys decide what will be done, we carry on as normal. But keep an eye, F1 on Twitter and all your normal social channels, FIA. If there is an announcement to come, it will come from there. For now, though, that is your lot. Can't wait to get the weekend underway. It's just such a brilliant track. It is such a brilliant track. Fans are great, atmosphere is great, and yeah, that for now is your lot.